I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
The Word of God tells us that it is because of the Lord's mercy that we are not consumed, and His compassions never fail. Rather, they are new every morning, and great is His faithfulness towards us. It was this mercy that was extended to the Ajayi family some time ago.
Glory be to God. It's 27 years already now, but looking back then, when the Ajayi twins were going to be delivered, everything just suddenly seemed to have take a negative turn.
I just woke up one day and I discovered a side of my face was just still. I had what the medical people call facial paralysis, facial palsy.
She developed a complication of twin delivery, which is preeclampsia. And before we knew what was happening, she had what you call a minor stroke.
I think this side of my face, the eyes, the nose, the lip, everything on that side was not responding to anything. It was just there. I could not blink, I could not wink, I could not do anything. And well, I went to the hospital, UCH then, and they were saying because of the condition, they could not give me any medication. That is until after delivery, because that it will resolve by itself. And I was just there, the face was just there. And I carried on with the support of members of the church all around. Then much later we heard that people had dreams about what the devil intended concerning the pregnancy.
I remember somebody calling me one time and saying that she had a dream that we lost Pastor Biola.
Just one day I went for antenatal clinic and I went by myself, and the doctor said you can't go home, that the babies have to be brought out immediately. And I was wondering, I came here by myself, nothing is wrong with me. In fact, they didn't allow me to walk out of the clinic. I was put on a wheelchair.
Things looked so tough because she had a complication and she could lose the babies, she could lose her life, and they could end up opening her up.
I give thanks to God, against all medical expectation, because I remember the consultants then was saying they had to do it immediately, that most likely I was going to throw a fit, whatever that means in medical language. Then I didn't know. And so they had, but a medical doctor, I think a senior reg who was a member of this church then, said no, that you should give me a chance. I was going to monitor my BP and gave a time frame that they should allow me to try to deliver by normal delivery. And he sat by me, and I know from time to time they were monitoring the blood pressure. And after some hours, the consultant came and said, this lady is still there. I'm going by 7 o'clock. If she has not brought forth, we are going to section her.
That was how much tension there was, but God took care of it.
To the glory of God, by the time the consultants came back, I've been delivered of the set of twins. The first one came, and by then I was tired. I was very tired, and I heard the doctor saying the second one should be delivered by forceps. I don't know what that meant then, but I remember two of our aunties that were there then said no, they appealed to the doctor that let's give her one more chance. Don't use forceps to deliver the second one. And within a space of few minutes, the second twin came, and I just want to give thanks unto the Lord. And after the delivery, as the doctor said that the facial palsy was going to resolve, so I thought, well, immediately after the delivery, everything will resolve. But the blood pressure did not go down. I was in the hospital until the morning of the naming. That was when I was released to go home with strict instruction that I should just be on bed rest. Well, we had the naming, a month passed and nothing happened. My face was still straight. I could not close the eyes. If I want to sleep at night, I have to use my hand to close my eyes. I could not. It was just there.
As a church, as families, we all were before the Lord, asking God for His mercy.
So I was advised to start physiotherapy. Then I was also placed on antihypertensive drugs at 29, Aldomet and Moderatic then. And I mean, I was taking those drugs, and every time I took the drugs, I didn't like the way I felt then. It was as if something else. I felt I was floating. So I kept telling God that, God, if I start hypertensive at 29, then for the rest of my life, how will I be able to cope? So I started physio for the face, for the facial palsy, and there were no significant improvements. But every time we come for the Tuesday service, the miracle service, that's my prayer point, that God, I need a miracle. I can't continue this way. And by myself, I stopped the medication by myself because I believe God will heal me. And to His glory, within 6 months after delivery, my face returned to normal. And if I don't tell you, I'm sure you won't know that I've had facial palsy before. I give all the glory and honor to God.
And today is all history. Glory be to God.
Bulletproof jackets are worn for protection in dangerous situations. However, as a people of faith, we have protection that is better than man-made ones. And our dear sister Adura is a living testimony of God's power to protect and preserve.
I'm here to testify to God's glory and His faithfulness. I'm a product of God's mercy and love. Precisely June 2nd, year 2017, that was a few days to our 23rd anniversary, I left church. It was a Friday, which was prayer service. I left church and I was at home. I had to deliver a parcel to a family friend who came for it. That's like around after 8. So I went outside to drop the parcel and tried to explain some things in the car. Few minutes, I just saw a gun at the window, side window of the car. I was like, it was just like a movie. So I had to quietly move the seats backward. So because the gun was actually facing my side, I had to move the seat backward. And the next thing we heard was cooperate. The person at the engine of the car just started the car, and what we heard was a gunshot. Before I knew it, I saw blood. We had to call on my landlord, who rushed me to the nearest hospital. And they rejected me there that I have to come with a police report. From there, I was taken to UCH. Doctors came to check me up. They treated me and they said I was to go for an X-ray. After the X-ray was conducted, we counted over 15 pellets that were in my body. I'm so grateful to God because the testimony behind is that none of those pellets went close to my bones. That was the testimony that if it had touched any of my bones, I would have had a broken bone or broken ribs. But I thank God because all of this is in the past now. And ever since, I've never had any cause to go back to the hospital for any other occurrence. I just give glory to God.
Is it true that the guardian angels of children are forever working a double shift? If the answer is yes, then is it because they are innocent or vulnerable, or simply because Jesus loves them? We believe this to be true for Bukumi Ajayi.
Well, where do I begin to talk about that particular incident? This was about 24 years ago now. The young man, Bukumi Ajayi, was about 3 years old. At that time, we were using a car. And our normal routine then, when we come for Sunday services, was for me to leave home first because of the fact that my wife had to take care of the children and sort out some other things. And so I will leave home very early and come to church. And the moment I get to church, brother Wale Olaiton, Wale Bobus, will take my car back home to pick my family, to pick my wife and the children. That was the routine. And so on this fateful day, they were a little late because I was taking the announcement in church when I saw the pandemonium right at the entrance of the church.
While we dropped from the car, we sat at the back. I was on this side, Bukumi was on the other side. I think he left the car and he was turning to come and meet me on my own side of the car. Then he was still very small, young and short. So he went through the back of the car. Meanwhile, Brother Wale that was driving could not see him from the mirror, that he was right behind the car. And before we knew it, Brother Wale reversed onto him. He was right under the car. Wale reversed, and when I looked and I saw him right there under the vehicle, I mean, my head was up.
The next thing she did was to put her hand on her head, started crying, and started walking towards the children's church. Because as far as she was concerned, the young man was already crushed.
I thought probably the car had crushed him, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just running away from the scene.
But to everybody's surprise, the young chap just crawled out from under the car. Of course, his clothes were stained, muddied and everything. And he was totally unhurt. And the surprising and amazing thing was that he actually crawled out from the side of the silencer. If he was not crushed by the vehicle, the heat from the silencer alone was enough to cause lasting damage. But that was the side he chose to crawl out from and came out and all that. And he was unhurt, he was unharmed. There was nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with him.
Only what happened was that his clothes were dirty because of the rain. The ground was wet. I give God all the glory and the honor, and I believe it was God's intervention that brought him. Otherwise, against every odds, it was easier for the car to have crushed him, because to all intents and purposes, I felt he has been crushed by the car that reversed into him, but there was no injury.
When we got back home in the afternoon, so I called him. I said, Bukumi, what happened? He said, Daddy, I saw big people. That was all he could say. He said, I saw big people. Where did you see the big people? He said, I saw the big people under the car. You can imagine the space beneath a Peugeot 505. I mean, that space is so small, there can't be big people there ordinarily. But that was exactly what the young man said. He said, I saw big people. Where did you see the big people? He said, I saw the big people under the car. So as far as I was concerned, that was the ministry of angels, because those who are eyewitnesses could not have imagined how he was not crushed. They could not have imagined how he was not crushed. They could not fathom it. They could not bring out a reasonable explanation to how he was delivered. The mother actually saw it and assumed that that was the end of it. But to the glory of God today, the young man is 27, he's living in England, and he's doing very well, to the glory of God. So we have every single reason. I mean, there are many more testimonies of what God did. We have every single reason to be grateful to God.
Isaiah chapter 43 verse 2 says, when you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burnt up. The flames will not consume you.
My testimony to the light part is to say thank you to God who preserved me and my family from a near fatal accident we had on the 19th of November 2022. From the point of the impact, close to maybe a week thereabouts, I was unconscious.
I was feeding my baby at the back. Then I noticed he started saying, ah, 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 ah. So I looked up. Immediately I looked up. I saw a trailer. It's like the trailer was reversing back. Maybe it missed the turning. So before, it was pressing brake and it was shouting, ha, ha, ha. So, but I noticed that the trailer could not, the way we are moving, there's no way we could not hit the trailer. So I shift from the side. I was sitting at the back. Then I shift a little, then I hold my baby, then I bend down under the driver's side. So when the accident happened, immediately he went off. He was unconscious. Then I managed to come out of the car. Then somebody collected the baby from me. So I came out. Then when I came out, people already gathered to help us. But there was no vehicle to carry us. So I was just standing by the side of the road, begging people to help us. And nobody stopped. So I noticed a car very far from where the incident happened. So I rushed to the car to go and beg the person, maybe he could help us. So the person said because of police report and all that, he could not help us, that he's very sorry. So I was coming back with blood all over my body. Then I met a guy and the guy said what happened, and I explained to the guy that we just had an accident and I was looking for a vehicle to carry my husband. So it was like there's a road safety nearby that is going to rush there. That was when I remember that I dropped my baby for somebody. So I rushed back to the scene. Then I met the guy. He was already holding my baby. Then he has helped me to carry all the phone inside the car. So he gave the phone to me and the baby. Then by that time, the road safety came and they helped us to one nearby hospital. That was when I called my elder sister. Then I started calling people. So they moved us to one hospital around Mowe. So that was where they gave him the first aid. And shortly after my immediate elder brother came, then his own brother too came to come and join us. And my brother called one of his friends who is a doctor at Babcock Teaching Hospital. So that one too came to meet us there, and we were there. It happened around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, so we were there till like evening. So when that Dr. Akinola came, by that time I already called the church. Someone called Pastor Bridget and Pastor Shola, so they called me. They started making arrangements, and the church is already involved. People have started praying and all that. So when the Dr. Akinola came, he met the doctor, and when they spoke, he told the doctor that is there, because he had head injury, and he said, is there a way we can do CT scan? They said there's no way around they can do the CT scan, that maybe we should be going back to UCH. So he said he was unconscious then, so they said they need to let him be stable before they can move him to anywhere. So they called UCH, they said the CT scan was not working. They called Babcock Teaching Hospital, they said the person that would do it is not around. So because it was on Saturday evening, so they said the person was not around. Then they called Lute. At Lute, they said they should give them one excuse that maybe the machine was faulty or something like that. So we left Lagos around 11 p.m. Even when we left that hospital with the ambulance, we are still looking for, they said there's no fuel. We are still looking for fuel in the midnight with ambulance. We got to like 3 petrol stations, they could not sell fuel for us. So we left. So I think the 4th petrol station before we could get fuel, that was past 11. And when we got to, we already at almost at Challenge, that bridge that leads to toll gate to Challenge, we almost had another accident with the ambulance. So we got to UCH around 2 a.m. in the night. That was when I started feeling pain at the back. I just noticed I couldn't carry my baby again.
Initially, we thought it was a small issue that Torayo did not have any injury. She was okay, she was up and doing, until when the pain in the neck started. And then we noticed that the pain was getting worse in the neck, and at some point she couldn't even carry the baby again. As a nurse, so many things came to my mind, though I was not thinking of spine injury.
The doctor came to me and said I have 2 options. Is either surgery, or they gave me that mini leather jacket, so that we should pick one option from the 2. So we opted in for the mini leather jacket, and they said I'm going to carry it for like 3 months, which I did.
I just thank God because He remained faithful. It was only His grace that brought me through personally.
And there are people in church that they are just praying for us, like Swiss Armies, they raise an altar of prayer. So I just want to thank God because through it all, we saw the hand of God.
The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has always presented several security challenges over the years. As children of God, we must commit our ways into the hands of the Lord. The main traveling advice is, do not embark on a journey on that road without prayers.
I think it was 2008. It happened on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. I was going outside the country to minister. It was an Easter Monday, I remember. Prior to that, I had a very strong impression that we should pray against death concerning ministers in Ibadan City. That's the only time that has happened in 30 years of Vine Branch that we came together to fast and pray for that specifically. For 1 week, we were coming every day to pray. And since we didn't know the details, we were praying in other tongues for 1 complete week every day just to pray against death for ministers of the gospel in Ibadan, not knowing that the devil was even after my own life, you know. Easter Monday 2008, I was on my way. I remember it was to Baltimore to minister. When we were about leaving my neighborhood, my son and my wife, my son was driving, I think my wife was by his side. When we got to our neighborhood gate, the security people were not there. It was very strange. So finally we got them, we waited, looked for them, they came. When we got to the park, Iwo Road Park, we didn't meet a vehicle. That was surprising, but again I said, who knows what God is up to. Again, that was not normal me. I would have looked at my watch and I thought time had gone. Now while we were there, a truck passed on the road. It was close to the road, so a truck passed on the road. We didn't think anything to it. So my wife and my son went back home. And we're on the express. I think it was an Audi vehicle that I found and picked and paid for all the seats. My own car at that time was very low. It wouldn't have been able to cross this thing that happened. So anyway, I was on the way, a little after Guru, or was it just before Guru? I can't remember now. We just turned a bend, and it was just Apparently there were 2 logs of wood, one on top of the other, and the trailer that went before us, I just now realized later, must have knocked one down. I just told the guy, keep driving. I just told him, keep driving, don't stop. Because I knew armed robbers had put something on the road and it will be close by, and the aim will be once you stopped, they will come for you. So I told him, keep driving. After a while, I just said, whatever else happened, the rim had bent and the tire was flat. All I could say was, Lord, help me. So with everything that way, it was like the vehicle was driving itself. And don't forget, it had gone all crack back, go back, I just don't keep driving. So finally, we got to Lagos, and so that's when I now called my wife and told her what happened. So God saved my life, that's just the truth. So I want to thank God for sparing my life. I didn't know all that prayer and fasting for 1 week. I didn't know it was myself that was a target. There may have been other targets, I don't know. But thank God we obeyed the prompting, and we spent time, and we thought we were praying for other people, and we were praying in other tongues. Thank God for people in church then, and we came together every day for 1 week to pray. It hasn't happened since then that we had to come back to just pray and fast over something, like that. And I wonder what would have happened if we didn't, obey God. So I went for the program I went for, came back safely. That's it.
The slippery, deadly animal called a snake is known to hide in grassy and bushy environments. So, it's an aberration for a snake to live inside the house.
But about 17 years ago, right there in my house, my son was going to be 3, a child we've waited for 6 years, going to 7, was going to be 3, and just then school had resumed, and while we were trying to dress him up, we saw that I couldn't find any of his belts. I opened the first chest of drawer, the second one. By the time I wanted to open the third one, I had this prompting not to. I peeped through the back of the chest of drawers, and I saw something like a big ruffle. I brought out this children's ruler, not more than this, and I'm like, I just did a little bit of pushing the drawer from the wall. I brought out the thing I thought was a ruffle, and then by the time I brought it out, it was a snake skin. I shouted, I said, take Shehu out of this room immediately. So by the time he finished removing all the things that were necessary that could cause obstruction in the room, the whole room was like play. He just pushed off the chest of drawer, and then this thing came out standing. The snake stand straight tall.
And then the person just pulled it back, rolled it, and fling it and killed it. I tell you, that was a miracle raw in my house. By the time it was testimony time, I came out and gave God all the glory for sparing us, for sparing everybody in my household. You understand? It was like God shutting the mouth of the lion when Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. And then the pastor said, Brayemi, who is no longer with us, I think he lives in Canada now, should come, and he brought out the snake from where they kept it and brought it. By the time he was bringing out Brayemi's door, everybody in the church stood up from their seat and were running to the back. Afterward, they thought it was a small snake. By the time they saw what we brought out, they actually went to use UI Zoo to go and see the cobra they had there. The cobra they had in UI was like half of the size of the one we found in my house. I give God all the praise. Today we are celebrating His faithfulness, His goodness, His mercy, His love. And I know the next 30 is going to be greater, much more glorious than what we have seen, in the mighty name of Jesus.
Education is a child's inalienable right, which is why parents are advised to send their children to school. However, what happens when a child desires to go to school but is denied that opportunity?
I want to appreciate God for His faithfulness upon my life and how God sought me through in my life and in my education line. I'm a family of 8, in which I am number 4. And I could remember then when I was at home and I heard my daddy said, they were fighting in between my mother and my daddy. I just overheard them. Said, going to school. And he said, the reason why that you didn't want to send me to school that I will be, get pregnant. Because my 2 older sisters, they got pregnant and things were difficult. All of a sudden, things started, rough and very difficult for me. And I love to go to school. I love the way people dress when they're going to school. Like this song that they usually, sing that, Batamiaro koko kan to baka were, Batamiaro koko ka. I said, school yi, emina malo. For your information, when I was in primary school, I repeated primary 2. Things were very difficult, and throughout premises, I could escape through. And I did this omodo. I helped them to wash the plates. Then, Mama share àwọn alábàárù, but I think my bath. Got into secondary school too. When I got to Form 4, I was given advice to withdraw. And since I know that failure is not the end of life, and God took control, I was able to, to escape through the secondary school in 1998. It was 1984 and 1994 that I did GC. So that GC that I did too, I didn't make it too. I did it like 15 or 14 times. I think 15 times. But it's not the end of life for me, because I still have it in mind to go to school. So at the end of the day, and I went to school in 1996 to professional school at School of Hygiene in 1996, and I left 1996. I finished in 1998. I did certificate course in health information, and at the end of the day, got to control. Get to Vine Branch, I was impressed, and Vine Branch, did a lot of things in my life. At the end of the day, I did my ND. After ND in 1999, I did HND in 2012, and my HND finished in 2014. It's not how far, but it is how well. And that's in 2014. It was 3 months in between, and I went for my BSc. So at the end of the day, I did BSc in 2000. I finished the BSc in 2016. I just want to appreciate God. God did mighty things in my life.
Glory be to God. In my language, there's a saying that says, "Amigo, I'm you know." It means that when we see joy, we don't have mouth. We lack mouth to express our joy. Many times we can express sorrow and cry and cry and cry and cry.
I was involved in a ghastly motor accident about 9 years ago. I was a student then, a medical student, and we were on our way in a bus for a community posting. Looking back, I can remember that we were very close to our destination. I think about 10 minutes away, and all of a sudden, I think I was sleeping. Yes, I woke up and I started shouting Jesus. That's really what I can remember. And I can remember the bus swayed from side to side. That was the last I remembered. Then I woke up and I saw people putting their hands on their heads, like Mogbeo, and people had to carry me. And that was the beginning of a long journey towards recovery. I had many injuries which were serious medically, but I thank God for His divine healing, and I thank God for protection. I had injuries to my spine, my hip, my femur. I had many fractures, but I thank God my spinal cord was preserved miraculously.
In Olot's case, God just had mercy on her and had mercy on us. On her because a young girl in her final year in medical school, that dream could have come to an abrupt end. And very easily, she could have spent all of her day on the bed. I mean paralyzed from neck down or waist down.
The journey, as I said, to recovery, but I thank God for the people of God who were always praying for me, the immense support I received, and I thank God for family. So I can't thank God enough for the blessing of family and people of God.
And for us as parents, we will forever be grateful. As a family, every 14th of April, my son, Wadiale, has coined it our Feast of Purim.
Thank God, because 9 years after, I look back and all I have is testimonies of God's faithfulness.
Each time I remember that incident, I tell myself that I owe God a singular duty to serve Him with all of my life until I meet Him face to face, to ask Him face to face, Lord, why did you do this for me?